Good morning, my dear students. Today I am going to give a lecture on sampling. In the previous classes, I have covered the topics of descriptive statistics. So basically, data is divided into two types. One is quantity and another one is quality. If data is qualitative, then you can represent data in the form of frequencies and percentages. If data is quantity and follows the normal distribution, that means data do not have outliers, then you can represent descriptive statistics in the form of mean with a standard deviation. Mean is comes under the concept measures of central tendency, and the standard deviation comes under the concept measures of dispersion. And if data do not follow the normal distribution, that means data contains the outliers. In that case, you can represent descriptive statistics in the form of median with interquartile range. Okay. The next class, I have given a lecture on distributions, normal distribution and standard normal distribution. How to find the limits of normality by using normal distribution, I explained. And by using standard normal distribution, you can find the area between two ordinates. All the normal limits in biology we can make by using normal distribution concept. Next, inferential statistics is divided into two types. One is estimation and second one is testing of hypothesis. So in a real time, we cannot study entire population. So we have to study the sample. Whatever the results you will get in the sample, you can generalize those results to the population. That is called the point estimation. This is a single value. And what is interval estimation? The sample to sample variations are there. Sample to sample, if you take mean in the first sample and you can take the same another sample from the same population, the mean varies and proportions varies. So that you have to calculate standard error of mean if data is quantitative, or if you can calculate standard error of proportions if data is qualitative. Based on standard error, you can make an interval, and that is the estimation of population parameter. And next, in testing of hypotheses, suppose two groups are there, you are comparing quantitative data, then you can calculate the mean for the first group and mean for the second group. The mean difference is significance or not, you can find by using the concept testing of hypothesis. If data is qualitative, you can compare two proportions, and the proportions difference is statistically significant or not, you can find by using testing of hypothesis concept. As in the last class, we discussed about correlation and regression. You can take two variables at a time, bivariate data. How one variable is related with another variable, you can measure by using correlation concept. In the correlation, we have to use Karl Pearson coefficient of correlation if both the variables follows the normal distribution. And if relation is strong, then you can fit a regression model, and you can estimate an unknown value of the variable based on known value of other variable by using the concept regression. And also we have discussed about chi-square test. By using chi-square test at a time, you can find significance among more than two groups. I mean, more than two proportions. And the advantage of chi-square test is you can find the association between two qualitative variables. So I have given example of smoking and lung cancer also. And these are the things we already discussed in the previous classes. And today, these are the learning objectives. At the end of this session, you will be able to understand what is population, sample, sampling frame, sampling, the types of sampling methods, random and non-random sampling methods, random numbers, how to generate random numbers, and finally sampling and non-sampling errors. These are the things I am going to give a lecture today. See, I will open chart. See here, there are two drugs are there. One is existing drug and another one is new drug. What is the hypothesis of the researcher? So his alternative hypothesis is new drug is better than the existing drug. That is his alternative hypothesis. What is the null hypothesis? There is no significant difference between two drugs according to mean days of recovery. So these are the descriptive statistics. See, we have given a existing drug for 150 subjects and their mean days of recovery 15 days with a standard deviation is equal to 2, and given new drug for 50 subjects and their mean recovery is 9 days with a standard deviation is 2. My question is, which drug is better one? These are the descriptive statistics. So which drug is better one? So I got some answers. A new drug. So all are all. See, one response we cannot say. Why we cannot say? So some response both are same. So majority given a response, new drug is better than the existing drug. See, by seeing a descriptive statistics, we cannot give inference. First, we have to see the difference between means. Is it statistically significant or not? That we have to establish. Okay. Then only you can decide whether, new drug is better than the existing drug or not. Okay. I already explained in the previous class. In this situation, you have to apply the concept testing of hypothesis. In testing of hypothesis, significance difference between two means. The concept you have to apply here. And here the observed difference is greater than the 2 times the standard error. Then you can say that new drug is better than the existing drug. Okay. So applied testing of hypothesis concept, and the conclusion is significance difference was proved between two drugs according to mean days of recovery. Okay. So that we can say that new drug is better than the existing drug because we applied inferential statistics concept and applied difference between means. Here observed difference is greater than the 2 times the standard error, so that we came to the conclusion significance is there between the means, so that a new drug is better than the existing drug. Okay. Next, this is the demographic information of subjects of group 1 and group 2. Here the group 1 is existing drug. So total subjects 50 and their mean age 63 years with a standard deviation is 3. and the new drug subjects total 50 and their mean age is 24 with a standard deviation is 2. The standard deviation 2 means on an average age differs from a mean is 2, and here on an average age differs in individual subjects is equal to 3, so that almost we have given an existing drug to the old age people, and we have given a new drug to the younger people. Here applied inferential statistics, I mean difference between the means concept applied in testing by using testing of hypothesis, and we proved that significant difference was proved between two groups according to mean age. Okay, I already explained in the previous class how to find the significance between means and the significance between two proportions, and here we proved that. So in a mean age is higher in case of existing drug when compared to the new drug. I mean the people subjects of I mean we are given 50 subjects to new drug to the 50 subjects, and their mean age is 24, whereas in existing drug mean age is 63. So that the mean age is high in existing. I mean first group one than the group two. Okay. Here bias is there. You can observe here. So here researchers wanted to prove his drug is better than the existing drug, so that he has given a new drug to the younger people, and he has given existing drug to the old age people, so that their main recovery is 15 days, and here recovery in case of new drug it is 9 days. So this is by using this table we can say that new drug is better than the existing drug, but here the compounding variable age is involved here. Because of this age, this data, the study is influenced by this age. Here age is called the compounding variable. What is compounding variable? Variable which influence the entire study. Here age is influenced the study, because here there is no randomization process. So here total 100 subjects are there. We have to divide the two groups by using randomization method. Randomly, we have to allocate the subjects to both the groups. But here there is no randomization, and researchers by researcher interest, he allocated the groups the bias. Okay, so to reduce this bias in research, we have to apply randomization before doing the research. Okay, experiment. In experimental studies, there are n number of randomization techniques are there. So by using these randomization techniques, randomly you can allocate the subjects to each group, and then you do the experiment, then you will get the better results. So how to reduce this bias, how to take the samples by using sampling methods, random sampling methods, I will explain in today's class. So generally, how to select the samples in the field, different sampling methods are there. Those sampling methods I will discuss in further slides. See here, this is the population of size 150, and the sample is 30 subjects. How to take these 30 subjects from the population, first 30 or last 30, and how to select these 30 subjects from the population, that process is called sampling. The process of selecting samples from the population is called sampling. And after getting the samples, you can collect the data from the samples and do some apply some analytical techniques, and then you can give inference to the population, not to the sample. Whatever the results you will get the samples, Those results you can generalize to the population. That concept is called inferential statistics. So one is estimation, second one is testing of hypothesis. Okay. So what is population? You don't think the population means a general population. Okay. This is the study population. It depends on the research question. I will explain with an example. Next, what is the sample? The part of the study population. Next, what is sampling? The process of selecting samples from the population. So what is study population? The study population is the population to which the results of the study will be inferred. You cannot give inference to the entire population. We can give inference based on the sample results to the study population, not to the entire population. Okay. The study population depends upon the research question. I will explain with an example. See, here you can identify the study population. I again open the chart. Does brisk walking for at least 1 hour daily reduce fasting blood glucose level among type 2 diabetes mellitus patients in India? So what is study population here? I open chart. My question is, this is the research, question. What is the study population? Good. Patients with the type 2 diabetes mellitus. So here study population type 2 diabetes mellitus patients in India. And next, this is how many hospitals have a needle sticks prevention policy in India. So what is the study population here? Very good. Hospitals. So majority given a response hospital. Here the study population is hospitals of India. Okay. So study population may be human beings, hospitals. You don't think that study population means only human beings. Okay, it depends on research question. Okay. So how to get samples from the population? See, this is the general population. Then you can define demographic and clinical characteristics. Then from study population to, you will get the target population. See, this is the general population. You can define demographic and clinical characteristics. Then you will get target population. Next, define geographical and temporal characteristics. Then from target population, you will get accessible population. After getting accessible population, you can take the sampling method. From accessible population, you can get study sample. So this is the process to get the samples from the population. I will explain what is demographic and clinical characteristics and geographical and temporal characteristics and different sampling methods I will explain. So from this step to this step, it is called inclusion criteria. So how to include the subjects in the research, you can decide by this process is called inclusion criteria, and this is called exclusion criteria. How to exclude the subjects from the research, that is called exclusion criteria. I will explain with an example, then you can understand. Okay. This is an example. This is a clinical trial of low dose metformin to reduce dysmenorrhea in females with polycystic ovary. So this is the clinical trial. So what is the inclusion criteria? These are all comes under inclusion criteria. These are the characteristics we have to define. And the first two, demographic and clinical characteristics. By these characteristics, you can get the target population, and geographical characteristics and temporal characteristics. After defining these two, you will get the accessible population. See here, what is demographic characteristics? Females in reproductive age group 15 to 14 years. Here we mentioned the gender and age group also. So this comes under demographic characteristics. And we are not taking all the females in reproductive age group. Okay, that is the demographic characteristic. Next, clinical characteristics. Females with polycystic ovary with dysmenorrhea. So these are the clinical characteristics we define. Then you can take females with a polycystic ovary with a dysmenorrhea and age group between 15 to 44. These by defining demographic and clinical characteristics, you will get accessible population. Next, study target population. Next, for accessible population, you have to define geographic and temporal characteristics. What is geographical characteristic? Patients attending OPD of the hospital in that region. The place you defined here. Next, temporal characteristics between January 1st to January 31st, December 31st of a specific year. Here you define the time and place. So these two characteristics, by defining these two characteristics, you will get the accessible population. So that, see, after getting the accessible population, you can do some appropriate sampling method. You will get the samples and you have to take the exclusion criteria. What is the exclusion criteria? Subset of population will not be studied. Why? Because, see here, interfere with loss to follow-up. Chances of moving out of location or marriage. So subjects chances of moving out of location or marriage, you have to exclude these subjects from the study, or interfere with quality of data. Patients already on metformin therapy for other cause. The patients already for other cause they are taking metformin therapy, so that if you include these subjects in your research, your experiment, definitely it will influence the results of your study, so that you have to exclude these subjects. Next, being at risk of the possible adverse effects. High risk, the high risk group you have to exclude from the study. Hypersensitivity to metformin or renal dysfunction. So these are the things, subjects, if you have, then you can exclude those subjects from the study. This is called the exclusion criteria. So first you have to define the research question. Next, from general population, by defining demographic and clinical characteristics, you will get the target population. Then you can define geographical and temporal characteristics. Then you will get the target population. From the target population, you can apply appropriate sampling method. You will get the sample, and by using this exclusion criteria, you have to remove some subjects from the sample and do the experiment. Okay. What is sampling? The procedure by which some members of the population are selected as representative of the entire population. The process of selecting samples from the population, this is called the sampling, but the sample should be representative to the population. Okay. So why we have to take the sample? why don't we study the entire population? The reasons for taking sample, it will save time. We cannot study the entire population. The previous example, so we cannot take entire female who are having a polycystic ovary and dysmenorrhea. You cannot study the entire population. You don't know the population size also. The population size is infinite, and if you are not able to study the entire population, then you can take the sample. It saves the time, and it saves the cost also, and more accuracy. See, if you take a larger population, so we have to spend time and money. And if size of the population is very high, and if you recruit a minimum data enumerator who collect the data, and if you give high target, they may not collect the quality of uh, quality data. Suppose if I have a sample of 100 members, I can recruit 120 members, and suppose if I give 5 samples each, then you can go and collect the data within a 1 day. You can collect the data from 5 subjects. Suppose if I take 1,000 samples, and if I give 50 target per day, you cannot give quality data. So you cannot focus, and you may not give the quality data, so that it will influence the study. So that better to take a sample rather than the entire population. Okay, then you will get a more accurate results. When it's impossible to study the whole population, in that case also you can take the sample. And the research process is sometimes destructive. The sample can save product. See, suppose if you have corona testing kit, if you have a different kits are there, and you cannot study entire population. Population means all the kids you cannot test. Okay, so you can take some samples and test it whether it is properly working or not. So you cannot study in this case entire population. Okay, suppose if you study, you cannot get the samples will, all the population if you study, and you can district all the destructive, you cannot get the material. So that we have to take the samples from the population and test it. If if you get the good results in the sample, and you can accept the population. Here the population means testing it. You cannot study the entire kits. Okay. Next, the types of sampling. So basically, sampling is divided into two types. So one is random sampling, and second one is non-random sampling methods. The random sampling, different methods are there: simple random sampling, stratified random sampling, systematic random sampling, cluster sampling, multi-phase and multi-stage sampling techniques. These are all techniques, random sampling techniques. But in your syllabus, you have a simple random sampling, stratified and systematic random sampling techniques are there. I will cover these three concepts. Next, in non-random sampling method, convenience sampling, judgment sampling, quota sampling, snowball sampling. These are all techniques comes under non-random sampling methods. I will discuss in detail these three methods, random sampling methods. So what is the advantage of random sampling? It eliminates bias in the selection process. So I have given an example in the earlier slides. I shown you the difference between two drugs. The bias is there. What is the bias? We have given a new drug to the young people and given a old drug to the existing drug to the older people. So that is the selection bias is there because the researchers wanted to prove new drug is better than the existing drug, so that by using random sampling method we can eliminate the bias in the selection process. Next, every unit of the population has the same probability of being included in the sample. The chance of every unit of the population, the probability means chance of being included in the sample. Equal chance is there. Non-random sampling, open the selection bias. Every unit of the population does not have the same probability of being included in the sample. It depends on the researchers. Researcher will decide whom to select and whom to reject. Okay. In a random sampling method, you cannot decide. By using random sampling methods, randomly we can allocate the subjects to the groups. Okay. Not appropriate data collection methods for most statistical methods. So if you take a non-random sampling methods, you cannot apply statistical techniques. Even if you apply the statistical methods, you cannot generalize those sample results to the population because bias is there. So statistics can be used to gain information about the population, by examining a sample of the population. Generalization about the population from a sample are valid only if the sample is representative of that population. Random sampling tends to produce representative samples and support valid inferences. So that most of the researchers, majority of the time, they will do only random sampling methods, not non-random sampling methods. So this is sampling frame. What is sampling frame? Sampling frame is a listing of the members of the study population from which the sample is to be drawn. So before, see, for example, I wanted to take the sample of 30 members from your class. First, I have to make the sampling frame. What is sampling frame? Sampling frame is a listing of the members of the study population. See, I wanted to study on MBBS students of 2017 batch of Gayatri Medical College. So what is my study population? All MBBS students who admitted in the year 2017 in GVP Medical College. Okay. The study population size is 150. And first I have to take sampling frame. So entire list of 150 students and their roll number and name. This is called the sampling frame. Okay. So this is a simple random sampling method. First method in random sampling methods. The simple random sampling, population size is 150. And I wanted to take the sample of 30 members from the population. This is the study population. So how to take this 30 samples from the population of 150 by using simple random sampling method, I will explain. Assign to each member of the study population with a sequential ID number. So we have already serial number. Suppose if you are doing the same study in the field, first you have to take the sampling, make the sampling frame and assign ID number for each member of the study population. Okay. Here ID number from 1 to 150. This is our study population. Then select a sample of 30 members in the following methods. So one is lottery method, and second one random numbers tables method, and third computer generated random numbers method. Many methods are there. These three methods are popular methods, and recently majority are using only computer generated random numbers methods. Okay, I will explain how to take random number, different random number generated methods. I will explain. Okay. See, this is the lottery numbers. You are all well known about this method. So first we have to arrange, make n slips numbering from 1 to and 150. Make a slips and keep in one bowl, and then pick sample of 30 members. Then collect the data from them. Okay. You can take one up to 30 slips. You can pick out of 150, and whatever the random numbers you will get, you can collect data from those 30 samples. Okay. So there is equal chance to all the study population, and I mean entire subjects. There are equal chance. Anybody may come into the sample. There is no bias here. So this is the method, lottery method. You can use a lottery method in the simple random sampling method for selecting samples from the population. Next, this is the random numbers tables method. So many scientists in statistics, they made different random numbers tables. By using these random numbers tables, you can select the random numbers. Here our sample size is, sorry, our population size is 50, and here sample size is 5. So we require 5 samples from the sample population size 50. How to select these 5 samples? So you have to assign first sampling frame you have to make, and for each subject of study population, you have to give the numbering from 1 to 150, 1 to 50. Then opportunely select a starting point, then ignore numbers that are larger than population size. I will explain. You can start anywhere. You can go horizontally or vertically. See, I will start from here. Okay. Here the population size is 50, so that you can take 2-digit number. Here 42. Next 53. Second sample. Third sample 1. See, I started here. Exactly, you can start at anywhere. You can go horizontal or vertically. I just started here. The 42 is the first sample. 53 is second sample. The 53, our population size is 50, but it is more than our population size, so that you can exclude this 53. The first sample is 42. Second, exclude this number. Next sample is 1. This is second sample. And next is 85, exclude, because this is more than our population size. And next 90, exclude. And next 73, exclude. Next 36. This is within the range of our population size. This is the third sample. Next 87, exclude. 79, exclude. 86, exclude. Next 45, include. This is our fourth sample number. Next 68, 73, 76, 76, 88, 94. Next one 34. This is the fifth sample. Okay. Ignore if number that are larger than the population size. So we got 5 random numbers, and we already made a sampling frame. So whatever the random numbers we generate by using this random numbers tables method, you can identify those samples and collect the data from those 5 samples. Okay, this is the way you have to select random numbers by using random numbers tables method. Okay, one is lottery method, and second one is random numbers tables method, and third one computer generated random numbers. So this is the popular method nowadays. All are all using method. They are using this computer random numbers. I will show you how to generate random numbers by using computer generated random numbers. See, this is a calculator. So our sample size, population size is the total students 150, and I want the sample of 30 members. 30 samples are required from 150 population, and just calculate the random numbers. See here, these are the random numbers. 3 is there. 3 is our first sample. 8, 9. See, out of 150 students, I say randomly I take on 30 samples. These are the random numbers. First, I have to go to the sample number 3, roll number 3, and I have to collect the data. Our next sample is roll number 8. Our next is 9, and the last sample is 150. So randomly, I took total 30 samples, and I have to collect the not usable. 1 minute. Is it clear now? Is it visible? Okay, okay. So this is what is the role we have given made a sampling frame from our what is our population size. So population size is 150, and we have to select the samples from 150 population. So our sample size is 30 here, and the calculate the sample. See here, this is the sample. These are the random numbers. Our population size, total students 150, but I wanted to study only 30 samples, and these are the random numbers. See, first random number is 2. Who are having a roll number 2, I have to go and collect the data from the roll number 2, and next roll number 3, and up to roll number 145. This is the last sample. So this is the way by using computer generated random numbers. You have to generate the random numbers, and you can collect the data from them. Okay. So this is the way you have to generate random numbers by using computers. So this is a simple random sampling. First, you have to make the sampling frame. Okay. Of here, the what is the population size is here? The population size is 48, and we require samples 5. So first, we have to take any method, lottery method, or random numbers tables method, or computer generated random numbers method. You can choose any random number generation method. Then you can take 5 random numbers, and 5 random numbers. For example, the 20 is the first random number, and 40, 29, 27, 30. So this is the sampling frame of it contains the study population of size 48, and I wanted to study only my sample size is only 5. I wanted to take only 5 samples, and I selected 5 samples by using random number generator methods. Random method are random numbers tables method or computer generated random table method. And I selected 5 samples. Then I will go and collect the data from those 5 subsets. So this is the way you have to make a simple random sampling concept. Okay, clear? Next, merits. No personal bias. There is no bias here because we are selecting samples randomly. Next, suitable for homogeneous population. Why we have to? Why it is only applicable for homogeneous population? Because if you take a heterogeneous population, And when you are collecting the data, you will get the variability in the samples. If variability is high, and you cannot generalize those results to the population. If you make the interval estimation, you will get a large interval, so that it is not applicable for heterogeneous population. You should select the homogeneous population. Then you can apply a simple random sampling method. Demerits: cases too widely dispersed. Suppose if you are doing the study in a geographical area, in the field, if you are doing this study, then if samples are scattered in different areas, then it is difficult to uh, make a simple random sampling, because it will take time and money. Okay, if cases are too widely dispersed. See, if students are all at one place, or the 150 students are there, by using simple random sampling method, I can collect the 30 samples from the students, because all are located at one place. If it is in the field widely scattered, then you should not, this is not recommendable. Okay, simple random sampling is not appropriate technique if cases are subjects are too widely dispersed. Okay, next, not applicable for heterogeneous population, because in the samples you will get more deviations. Not applicable for large population. If the population size is very large, it is difficult to make sampling frame. Yes or no? For 150 students, or the sample population size is less, then you can make the sampling frame. If the population size is very large, it is difficult to make the sampling frame. Okay. Next, this is a stratified random sampling method. Here, this is the population of size 2000, and this is the sample of size 200. We need 200 sample size. We need this, the sample size is 200. We require 200 samples from the population 2000. Here, population is divided into non-overlapping subpopulation called stratification. Here, the population is heterogeneous, so that we have to make homogeneous subgroups, because see, average income, if you wanted to study in a particular region, if you include all high, low, middle income people, if you apply here simple random sampling, you person who is having a low income and the persons who are having high income, those people will come in the sample, and the variation will increase, so that you cannot generalize those results to the population, because the population is not homogeneous. This is heterogeneous population. So that simple random sampling technique we cannot apply if population is heterogeneous. So that first we have to divide a heterogeneous population into homogeneous subgroups. This is called a stratification. Okay. Then you can collect the data from each stratum. A random sample is selected from each stratum. This is one stratum. Total 3 stratums are there here. So high socio-economic group, 500 subjects are there in the population. See, entire population is 2000. We are taking 10% of the population as sample, and you can take 10% of high socio-economic group people, that is 50. N1 is equal to 50. So capital N1 represents the population, and small n1 represents the sample. Okay. Next, low socio-economic group, 1000 members are there in the population, and 10%, that is 100, you can take from the low socio-economic group. This is the sample. And next, in the middle socio-economic group, total 500 members are there in the population, and 10%, that is 50, you can take from the middle income group. Okay. So total heterogeneous data, we are divided into 3 homogeneous subgroups. We have to select the samples from each strata by using any method. We have to make sampling frame for low socioeconomic group, or high socioeconomic group, and middle socioeconomic group. From each population, from each strata, you can collect the samples by using any method, lottery method, random numbers tables method, or computer generated random method. So this is the way you have to make a stratified random sampling if data population, study population is heterogeneous. If study population is heterogeneous, we have to divide the data into homogeneous subgroups. Then from each subgroup, we have to collect the samples and you can generalize the results to the population based on the sample results. Okay. So this is the concept of stratified random sampling. What are the merits of stratified random sampling? More representative, because if you apply a simple random sampling method for heterogeneous population, definitely you will get variations in the sample. You cannot generalize those results to the population. So that this is more representative if population is heterogeneous. Next, greater accuracy, applicable for a heterogeneous population. Demerits utmost care in dividing strata. So how to divide the population? How many stratas we have to take that domain expert researcher should design, and he should take utmost care in dividing stratas. Okay. Next, systematic random sampling method. In a systematic random sampling method, so here the sample size is 12, total 12 members are there. We wanted to take the sample of 4 members. First, in systematic random sampling, first step is we have to make a sampling interval. We have to calculate sampling interval. It is represented with a K. The formula is capital N by small n. Capital N by small n. 12 by 4, that is equal to 3. So then you have to make first 3 one group, second 3 second group, third 3 third group, last 3 fourth group. Okay. According to the sampling interval, you have to make the grouping. Okay. Next, the first sample element is selected randomly from the first population elements. So this is the first group, first 3 members. Randomly select. See, 1, 2, 3, 3 numbers are there. Randomly select one number. Suppose if selected number is 3, then you can add sampling interval. So selected number is 3 and you can add sampling interval. 3 plus 3, 6, 1. And next again add sampling interval. 6 plus 3, 9. 9 plus 3, 12. So you can collect the data from the third sample, sixth sample, ninth sample, and 12th sample. I will explain with another example also. Thereafter, sample elements are selected at a constant interval, that is K. We have to add K to the random point from the ordered sequence frame, that is 3, 6, 9, 12. I will explain with another example. So your class contains 150 students. So I wanted to take the sample of 15 members. So first in a systematic random sampling, we have to calculate first sampling interval, that is K. What is the formula? Capital N by small n. Your population size is 150 students, but I want only 15 students as sample. Capital N by small n. 150 by 15, that is equal to 10. Okay, this is sampling interval. You have to make the groups based on sampling interval. See, I made the group here. The first 10 sampling interval, next second 10, third 10 up to 141 to 150. Total 15 groups are there. According to the sampling interval, you have to make the groups. Okay, first group, second group. First group containing total 10 subjects because sampling interval is 10. Okay, according to the sampling intervals, we have to make the groups. From first group, randomly you have to select one number. 1 to 10, randomly you have to select one number. For example, random number is 7. You can take, for example, if you select the lottery method, total 10 slips you can put and randomly you can take one slip, and the number is, for example, the number is 7. This is the first sample. Next, we have to add sampling frame to the sample. 7 plus 10. What is sampling frame here? Sampling frame is 10. You can add sampling frame 7 plus 10, 17. Again, you can add sampling frame 17 plus 10, 27, and up to last one, last sample. Okay, total you will get 15 samples. So this is the way you have to make a systematic random sampling method. Okay, what is first step? You have to calculate the sampling interval first. Next, the first sample element is selected randomly from the first population elements. Okay, from the first k population elements. Next, for example, selected number is 7. Then, therefore, thereafter, sample elements are selected at a constant interval k from the ordered sequence frame. Okay, then you will get the samples. These are the samples you get, random numbers, and you can go and collect the data from these 15, those 15 members. Okay, this is the way you have to calculate we have to make the systematic random sampling. Okay. Next, merits simple and convenient, less time consuming, applicable for homogeneous population. Suppose if you take heterogeneous data again, in the sample, you will get more variations, and you cannot generalize those results to the populations. So high variations you will get if you take heterogeneous data. What is demerits not applicable for heterogeneous population? Okay, so these are the methods of random samplings. One is simple random sampling, and second one is stratified random sampling, and last one is systematic random sampling methods. Simple random sampling is applicable for homogeneous population, and the population size is less sample population size. If population size is large, we cannot make the sampling frame. Okay, and for stratified random sampling is for the heterogeneous population. First, we have to divide the heterogeneous population into homogeneous subgroups. From each subgroup, we have to select the samples. Okay, this concept is called stratified random sampling. Like the last one is systematic random sampling method. First, we have to make a sampling interval, that is capital N by small n. You will get one number. Then from 1 to that number, you can make first group, and you can add that number, or like that you can make different groups. But we have to take random numbers, any one random number from the first group, and you can add sampling interval to that random number. Then you will get the sufficient samples. Okay, so this is the way you can apply sampling techniques, random sampling techniques. Then you can reduce the bias in the selection of the subjects. Okay. Next, errors. There are two types of errors. One is the sampling error, and second one is non-sampling error. So if we take repeated samples from some same population, the result obtained from one sample will differ to some extent from the results of another sample. So sample to sample results vary. The proportions if you take, means if you take, the sample to sample it vary. I explained already, and this variation we can measure by using standard error. Sampling errors we can measure by using standard error concept. I explained already how to calculate standard error for proportions, standard error for means. Okay. So this is called the sampling error. What are the factors influencing sampling error? Sample size. If you take large sample, then the sampling error will reduce. Okay. See, if you take large sample, what is the standard error formula? If you remember, so n sample size n is in the denominator, so that the standard error will reduce if you increase the sample size. Okay. Next, variability. If a variability is high, very high variability is there in the sample, definitely it will, you cannot generalize the results to the population. If variability is very less, then you can generalize the results to the population. Here you have to take the homogeneous populations. Okay, yeah, if you apply simple random and systematic random sampling methods. So by increasing sample sizing and decreasing variability, you can reduce the sampling errors. Okay, non-sampling errors, inadequately calibrated instruments. See, if your BP operator is not working properly, and you cannot get the quality data, and if you don't get the quality data, you cannot generate those results to the population. And observer error, if a technician is not a skilled one and he don't know how to measure the BP, and you, in this case also you cannot get the good quality data, and data is not quality, you don't get the quality data, then your research is not at all valid one. So these non-sampling errors may occur because of inadequately calibrated instruments, observer variation, and incomplete coverage. See, the total samples you cannot cover, then you can get non-sampling errors. Next, conceptual errors. See, you cannot, if you are not properly define the what is BP, SBP, and what is defined DBP and standard. See, for example, if you want to calculate BMI, first you should know the standard definition, what is the WHO definition, and how to measure all the concepts you should follow. If you are not follow the standard definitions, so you cannot get the quality data. If you don't get the quality data, then you cannot get the good results in your study. Okay. So every research will start with the research question. See, the problem identification of the problem is first thing in research. That is, I wanted to find here refractive errors in medical students. That is my research question. See, what is my aim to estimate prevalence of refractive errors in medical students. That is my aim. That is the research I am going to do. Then what is the hypothesis? Here we cannot make the hypothesis because it is not an analytical study. This is a cross-sectional study. Suppose if you are comparing, see, refractive errors between males and females, if you are comparing, then you can make the hypothesis. Or else risk factors if you are identifying. For example, refractive errors, who are having refractive errors, who are not having refractive errors, and meantime they are spending on TV, and they are spending on reading, and different variables. If you are comparing between refractive error group and non-refractive error group, then you can, in this case, you can make the hypothesis, because we are here. Our research is to estimate the prevalence, and it is cross-sectional study, so that there is no need to make the hypothesis here. And study population, medical students. What is our study population here? The medical students, 150 students. Next, the sample size. Scientifically, you have to calculate the sample size. So I can take, can I take only 2 samples, 20 samples, 30 samples? Who will decide this sample size? Scientific methods are there. Based on scientific methods, you can calculate the sample size. And next, do the sampling method. Here we are doing a sampling, simple random sampling method. Next, after doing the simple random sampling method, you can select the samples and collect the data from them and do the analysis. Finally, you can give the inference. Whatever the data you will get, and apply appropriate statistical techniques. Finally, you will give the inference to the entire population for 150 students, not for the 30 subjects, 30 samples. Okay. So this is the way you have to do the research. Okay. This is the first MCQ. If the study population is homogeneous and finite, then which of the following sample is appropriate? Question number 2. If the study population is heterogeneous, then which of the following sampling is appropriate? Next. In a study, people are separated into certain subgroups, and then some are selected randomly from each of these subgroups. What type of sampling is being done? Question number 4. Sampling method in which sample members from a larger population are selected according to a random starting point but with a fixed periodic interval. Yes. Sampling error will be decreased. Question number 6. Non-sampling errors will occur due to question number 7. Which sampling method is biased one? Question 8. If population size is large and homogeneous, then the suitable method of sampling is. Question 9. Sampling methods are used to. Question 10. Random numbers generation methods for selection of samples from the population. Next, if anybody interested, this is my email ID. I will give you a project real-time data, and you can apply some descriptive statistics and inferential statistics, and finally you will get one inference. We can make some inference. So here the point is comparison between open and laparoscopic surgery. See, before implementing this one, see, first we have to do the research, and you can conclude that which drug is better, which operation is better, or better one you can decide only by doing the research. Okay. So I will give you the data, demographic variables and clinical variables for blood loss, operation time between two methods, recovery time between two methods, and complications by open surgery, by a laparoscopic surgery, and you can compare it and whether the significance is there or not. We can make all these things, and finally you came to conclusion that which drug, which operation is better. If you wanted to do, if you have interest, who are having interest, those people you can contact me through email. You can send email to this email. This is my email ID, hanu2statistician@gmail.com. I will send you the data and do the exercise, and finally you can get the conclusion. How to do a study and how to collect the data and how to do the data analysis, especially, and how to take the decisions based on the statistical analysis, and what is the final conclusion, and how we are recommending laparoscopic surgery in place of open surgery. How to do this research, you will get an idea by doing this statistical analysis. Who are having interest, those people can contact through my email. Okay. And the next class, next Wednesday, our HOD sir will take the class on topic COVID-19. Don't miss expecting majority of the students without a fail. Okay. Next class, HOD sir will take on COVID-19 concept. Okay. Thank you.